Hello everyone, welcome to this session. Today we are going to talk about growing OSM in Eastern and Southern Africa. We will highlight on the challenges and opportunities. My name is Angela, and with me it's David Luswata, Geoffrey Kateregga, Cephas Magauzi, Royal Mabakeng. Sorry for this pronunciation, but Elly, Mulah. They are going to highlight on the challenges and the opportunities that we have in growing communities in the Eastern and Southern Africa. So I'll give the mic to David to continue the session by asking questions and also contributing his quota to this discussion.
Thank you very much, Angela. And hello, everyone from wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to this session. And we are very excited to have you joining us for this conversation this afternoon from Eastern and Southern Africa. My name is David Luswata. I am the Partnerships Manager at the Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Hub. I'm based in Kampala, and I'm part of the OSM community in Uganda. And very excited this afternoon to have this panel conversation with highly esteemed contributors to the geospatial data cause within the Eastern and Southern Africa region. But before I introduce them, I'd like for you to be able to let us know where you're joining us from this afternoon, morning, evening, in chat, and would like to know where you're joining us from. This afternoon with me, I have Mr. Cephas Magauzi, the Deputy Surveyor General for the Republic of Zimbabwe. I have Ms. Royal Mabakeng, a lecturer at Namibia University of Science and Technology. And I have Mr. Elly Mulah, a Senior Information Management Officer at the IFRC Africa Region Office. And I have Mr. Geoffrey Kateregga, Community Manager at the Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Hub. The Regional Hub is supported by the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, and it is operating within 23 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. This distinguished panel this afternoon is going to discuss for us growing OSM in Eastern and Southern Africa, looking at challenges and opportunities that OpenStreetMap brings with it in this region. And I asked my panel this afternoon for you to be able to know them very well, for them to introduce themselves, and they are going to answer just 3 questions for me. They will talk about who they are, what they do in their roles, and why they are so excited about the work that they do. And to do that, I'm going to welcome Mr. Magauzi to answer those 3 questions for us.
Yes, thank you. The name is Cephas Magauzi. I'm the Deputy Surveyor General responsible for national mapping in Zimbabwe. Hello. Yes. My day-to-day role involves the cadastral surveys for Zimbabwe and also creation and updating of map series in Zimbabwe. Currently, we are in the process of updating our maps, both street maps and the topo sheets from the scales of 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 50,000. So you can see that this is a very, very huge project we are embarking on. I'm quite excited with my roles.
We have a little bit of delay there. Let's move on to Ms. Royal Mabakeng, and we'll come back to Mr. Magauzi.
All right, let's hope the internet is not a problem this side as well. All right, greetings everyone. My name is Menare Royal Mabakeng. I am a lecturer in the Department of Land and Property Sciences at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. In terms of my daily role, currently I'm supporting the mapping of informal settlements in Namibia, specifically in Windhoek, where we are working with youth members in updating informal settlement data on OpenStreetMap. In terms of what I do here at the university, I support the youth mappers within the Department of Land and Property Sciences. I also coordinate the land administration programs in the department. Yeah, I'm happy to be here and I'm looking forward to a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Elly.
Yeah, greetings everyone. So, my name is Elly Mulah, and I'm the regional IM, Information Management for Africa Region, under IFRC, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Cross. So basically, my task involve capacity building of 49 national sites that we have in Africa, in majorly 3 areas. So we focus in terms of, I focus most in terms of data collection process, analysis, and visualization. So we are dealing in terms of the geospatial data, making sure that we have clear way in terms of data sharing and creating platform that we can allow movement in terms of Red Crescent and Red Cross movement to be able to collaborate and work as a team. So simply starts to make sure that people connect to data, and at the same time you're using the data that we have and creating ownership to our 49 national sites. That's it for me, and I would like to provide more insight as we go along. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elly. Good to have you this afternoon. Geoffrey, we'll move on to you now.
Yeah, thank you, David. So, yeah, my name is Geoffrey Kateregga. I come from many different kind of groups. So I am from OpenStreetMap Uganda. I'm also from OSM Africa. I'm also from HOT. Yeah, so really, yeah, and also from actually the Wikimedia community in Uganda. So I come from different kind of communities and groups. So my work, I work as the community manager at the Open Mapping Hub for Eastern and Southern Africa, which is supported by HOT, as David mentioned. What I do in that role, what I do in that role, I basically support the growth of OpenStreetMap communities across the region, supporting them with the resources they need to be able to contribute to OpenStreetMap in a sustainable way. So it means working with groups from across all over the region. So happy to be here. I think what excites me about my role is, connecting with groups from all over the region, and also even beyond. The OSM kind of community is really wide, and making connections with people from all over the world, for me, is what really is exciting about the work we do. Thank you, and back to you, David.
Thank you very much. And for all of you panelists, we are really excited to have you. I'm really honored to have the conversation with you this afternoon. I'm going to begin with Ms. Royo, and you are going to speak to us about the role of the universities. One thing that we know is that universities play a role in society by providing the impetus for change. Can you kindly share with us some of the new developments and innovations you've observed in the geospatial sector, which impact OpenStreetMap, or also for which OpenStreetMap is actually a driver? You could look at this in Namibia and the region.
All right, in terms of development, I see Mr. Magauzi is here. It's great. All right, in terms of developments in the geospatial sector, I'm going to speak from more of a land administration perspective. That's my background, and that's That's where most of my research is centered around. What I've seen, at least for the past 5 years, is this move towards machine learning in identifying of informal settlements, especially in developing countries and also specifically in Namibia. We've also seen this emergence of the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, what we call UAVs and what everybody commonly call drones, in the capturing of or at least in remote sensing, because it brings an advantage of having fast access to data on areas, especially if you are working in an environment where you need to plan and have the most updated images on the settlement that you are working on. And then specifically, like I said, in my area of research, is also this move towards crowdsourced information in supporting land information system, because it brings the advantage of having at least low cost data that you can use in order to build a land information system that can assist in the planning and then also upgrading of underdeveloped areas within cities. So those are the two most important, at least exciting developments that I've seen within the geospatial sector that can benefit or are benefiting from OpenStreetMap data. Over to you, David.
Wonderful. Yeah, amazing there. Let me then move to the humanitarian side of the use of OSM data. And Elly, I'm coming to you now for you to share with us the experience you have, because IFRC, the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, is one of the leading humanitarian organizations. And how are you using OpenStreetMap, and also how can OpenStreetMap data improve or even support the way humanitarian response is done?
Yeah, thanks a lot, David. That's a good question in terms of FRC, especially for Africa, what we're doing in terms of the OCM. And one thing I just mentioned in terms of disaster, and as we well know that disaster all happening around our continent, and we need to make sure that we have clear data to be able to make quick decision on them. So a scenario whereby happen, I just keep in terms of our scenario that we do in terms of using the OCM. One of the key example that a symbol at the DRC during the volcano eruption. So without having the OCM data to help us give it a feedback in terms of what are some of the areas which are affected, and how we can able to provide support in terms of, we call them targeted support for those key sectors that you're working on. So clear OCM mapping those data, and we had the data that we can able to inform us our own baseline to inform us where these areas are, and how we can able to use those particular data to us to create a clear report in terms of providing clear demarcation of population, what's there, and what kind of support of each everyone needs in terms of that particular eruption process. So this is one of the key examples that I can also provide. And as also we go back in terms of the in Mozambique, Zimbo cyclone Idai. So we had a problem in terms of having data in terms of population data, and we realized that OCM has this data to help us in terms of providing decision and providing the targeted goods in terms of what area was affected on that. And tapping with this data that we had in terms of not necessarily FRC, but the humanitarian actors within that area, we missed the data. But now we had OCM ready to us to offer us a kind of data that we can able to create a clear plan and able to have a targeted groups in terms of providing those key supports that we do in terms of humanitarian aspect. So OCM has played a critical role in terms of providing demarcation, providing clear maps, providing a clear way you can able to collaborate with data in terms of cooperating with that organization. Because we all know if you don't collaborate, we can have duplicate of effort running across different organizations. But now having the data that has been in-housed, so that each and every one understand this the clear demarcation when it comes to geospatial data, then OCM is there to make sure that to provide us a clear way forward in terms of that. So as we are playing in terms of humanitarian actors, the geospatial data in terms of OCM is really providing us a clear demarcation where disasters are, giving us prediction in terms of what's happening. So that's forecasting some of the key floods happening within our continents. And just some quick example which happened in South Sudan, without having a clear way for the OSM map, then we won't be able to tell what's happening next. So providing those data that we have can able to support us in terms of this process. And it has been a quite experience. My years in FRC and the humanitarian aspect, we have been using the OSM and the local community to make sure that they can able to keep on keeping on that data up to date, at the same time trying to support them in terms of providing the clear layout and providing the team to support in terms of the literacy level, so that we can able to build up the OSM team so that they can able to provide a clear way in terms of data to support our humanitarian activity we are doing across the continent. So that's a small snapshot I can able to share. Over to David.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Elly. And this is an interesting connection between, it's an interesting connection between land administration, the academia, the humanitarian side of the work that we do. Curious to hear now from, just want to check if I have Mr. Magauzi. All right, I'll move on to the community. Geoffrey, let's move to you, especially because the OSM community is in any country central to the growth of OpenStreetMap. And I think you're the best person I can come to understand the state of the community in Eastern and Southern Africa. How a community facilitate the growth of OpenStreetMap in their respective countries in this region?
Yeah, thank you, David. Maybe I will just try to first of all, just explain what an OSM community is. So an OSM community, really, what it is are the people who contribute OpenStreetMap data, but also people who use the data. So it's not only the data creators, but also the data users, and I think that's what makes OpenStreetMap unique, because it's not just a map like other map, but it's also like this community of people behind the map who contribute to the data, who also use the data. And these people can also be like individuals, but also some groups that are organized and are doing activities around OpenStreetMap. So when you look like in the region, in Eastern and Southern Africa, the situation, of course, is different from country to country. So there are groups, the countries where there is active groups who have been doing OpenStreetMap for some good time now, talking of countries like Tanzania, Uganda, DRC, Madagascar, but also we have countries where they're starting to get more active in OpenStreetMap. And I think one of the things that has really driven this change are projects around OpenStreetMap, which are led by different kind of groups. So there are projects which, for example, are led by like development partners, like the World Bank is doing the Open Cities project across different cities to support disaster response and resilience efforts. The humanitarian OpenStreetMap team has done several projects in several countries in the region, which have also led to the growth of communities. We do have Youth Mappers chapters. We mentioned the Youth Mappers chapter at the university where she works. And so far right now in Africa, we have over 200 Youth Mappers chapters. And these are really like university clubs of students who contribute to OpenStreetMap, and they're also like growing the community in the different countries. And you find like in the countries where you have several Youth Mappers chapters, you also have kind of a stronger OSM community. So really, the state of OSM in the different countries is at different levels, but also one thing to note is also the use of the data by government and also by humanitarian agencies like the Red Cross. So the level of data use is also different from country to country. yeah, you find like in Kenya, where the Kenya Red Cross, is actively using OSM, but also there are countries where you have, like agencies and also government who are just, getting to learn about OpenStreetMap and trying to trust it and use it either in their responses, but also to contribute. Yeah, that's kind of like the brief overview I can give of the state of OSM in Eastern and Southern Africa.
Thank you, Geoffrey. So this is an interesting mix of how different areas are using OpenStreetMap. And Mr. Magaozi comes from government. He is the Deputy Surveyor General. Mr. Magaozi, do I have you on the seat? Yes, I think I do. His connection is a little bit weak today. But I wanted you to paint a picture for us of what the geospatial and open mapping landscape looks like in Zimbabwe, especially.
Okay, thank you. From the government side of it, a bit out of date.
Yeah, it's quite hard to hear you, Mr. Magaozi, unfortunately.
And the geospatial side of it, we have
so let's Mr. Magaozi, we can't hear you. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's anything you can do about your connection. But I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you in a bit, hoping that your connection will improve, or if you can switch to another provider. I want to check again with Royal, because the university that you work with is currently involved in a collaborative project to update OSM data in Bindal. Tell us about that project and what that project means to the university, to the OSM community in Namibia, and generally to OpenStreetMap in Namibia.
Oh, okay. So currently the project that we're on. So earlier in, I think, early 2020, we had the opportunity to get support from OpenStreetMap, humanitarian OpenStreetMap, in supporting coordinated mapping events that can inform, at least that can contribute to data that can be used for informal settlement upgrading. What we have as a challenge in Namibia is we have about 40% of the urban population living in informal settlements. So what we have noticed in research and also from practical experiences and interaction is that informal settlement communities are always at most times excluded from planning. And one of the motivations behind this is that there is no data available that can inform the planning process. So we saw this gap, we saw that we can fill this gap by supporting communities, specifically the ones of the Sheikh Deles Federation, to contribute to availability of data that local authorities can use to inform informal settlement upgrading. So when this opportunity came through a grant from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, we saw that we could involve more people, not only youth mappers from the university, but also youth that are currently residing in this informal settlement. So our project was aimed at firstly to create an OpenStreetMap community, because not so many people in Namibia are aware or at least know that they can contribute to OpenStreetMap data. So we started that off by having activation events where we had not only university students that are not within the field of geospatial sciences, but also generally other students within your university that could come and attend events and then also contribute to OpenStreetMap. We had now an engagement with the Shack Dwellers Federation of Namibia, where they have youth members or youth that are currently residing in informal settlements also come and contribute. So we have seen an active participation of young people, and these are young people that are as young as in high school that come to the university every other weekend to contribute to mapping activities. So what we see is that when we started to engage the youth that are living in an informal settlement, we had more contributions and there was more active participation. Because one of the things, if I should just be straightforward on this, is that we have youth mappers in the university having to balance the extracurricular activities with their studies. So you would see that they would choose when to participate on mapping activities and also how to actively attend to their studies. So we have had more support and engagement from the youth members that are residing in an informal settlement. And then the other great thing that we saw is that we have the Shack Dwellers Federation that has for the past 20 years already been contributing to the gaps in data in Namibia, especially spatial and socioeconomic data in informal settlements. However, what they had is the data was always in manual format, where they had printed out aerial images and they will go into the settlement and digitize, not necessarily digitize, but they would sort of demarcate all the structures on paper maps and then bring this back into the office and have someone else digitize that. So we're seeing with our project how we can combine the activities that they were already doing just to sort of add the digital element of collecting the data digitally in the community by using different applications. Recently, we started testing out Mapillary, which is one of the most easiest tools to use in order to update some of the data that we have on OpenStreetMap. So lastly, what we're hoping to do with the project is to firstly make data available on all informal settlements in the country. And we are starting off with Windhoek as a sort of a test case that other local authorities can learn from. And then when the data is available, I think there would be no excuse for any planner to say that they can't plan for an informal settlement because there's no data. And we are here to fill that gap at speed and also at a lower cost. Over to you, David.
That's exciting, and yeah, I can't wait to see lots of these settlements in OpenStreetMap with lots of contributors to OSM, the community, the students coming in to also contribute to OpenStreetMap. Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. Now there is a link here between institutions and the communities. And Elly, if I may come to you, the national societies in each of the nations, likely the leading, humanitarian disaster response organizations, and they have lots of volunteers in many of the parts of the countries. How can the OSM community in any of the countries in this region link up with the national societies, and especially the national society, Red Cross national societies? How can that linkage be done? And what benefits do you see in a linkage of that sort between the OSM community in these countries and national societies?
Thanks a lot, David. That's really a good question in terms of our aspect, in terms of what we are doing. And as we all know, IFRC depends on volunteer. RC and RC movement, Red Crescent, volunteer at the core in terms of driving some key aspect that we are doing. And just to start on, one of the key points is that the youth, we call volunteer engagement and capacity building. So this aspect that has been really to make sure that wherever we have volunteers within national society, and they can able to make sure that championing up our major agenda in terms of we call them digital volunteerism. And this aspect, we are making sure that at least volunteers within national society, they're able to make sure that they participate in terms of creating clear maps and able to link up with the OSM community. And one of the groups that we have within national society is we have different branches all over. And we can realize one national that has almost 21 branches. And we realize one of the branches, they're doing something in terms of mapping, but the next branches, they have no anything about what needs to be done. So in aspect that we come in as FRC in terms of that, we're able to make sure that we reach out to national society, able to make sure that we have all the branches where they're working in terms of mapping. Because again, each and every operation runs in each of those branches. Because if you have an emergency, then we need to call up a volunteer from different branches to support the other branches. But one of the key things is to make sure that we capacity those volunteers, and that's something that comes out, we're able to know in terms of their skill level, in terms of able to use maps and able to develop and able to map activities within a digital framework. How vast are they? So that's one of the aspects that we are coming to make sure that we're able to support our national society in terms of able to identify some of the national society, those particular branches they are working in, and how they're using data in terms of their local activities. So something that came up as a challenge that through that process, we realized that we need to make sure that all the national society within each and every level, they know who is OCM within each and every national society they're working in. Because we realized that we have national society within different branches. They didn't know if there's an operation in terms of OCM in their countries. And this is something that we have been really working on in terms of strengthening that process. And that's why you have this kind of partnership from HOT to make sure that we strengthen that partnership in terms of making sure that national society able to identify we have OCM within our country, and this is what they're able to do in terms of supporting our volunteers in making sure that they can start either try mapping, able to be trained in terms of those key digital skills, because again, digital skills is one of the vast knowledge that we are using. So when they have been strengthened using those digital skills, they can able to contribute, able to participate in digital skills, and able to make a good result on it. So that's one of the key points in terms of volunteers and strengthen their capacity. So the next thing, just to say in terms of that, we have the youth engagement process. And again, youth are one of the key players in the OCM. So in terms of making sure that they're able to understand what they need to do. And some of the things that we do for this, we normally host something called, we do mapathons, and clear hosting of mapathon by supporting national society. So coming up together in terms of understanding what we need to map and promoting that peer-to-peer network. If a national society is good in terms of mapping and using advanced skills in projecting some decision-making results, so how our national society can able to do that? So we come in as FRC in Africa to make sure that we support those national society in terms of hosting those mapathons. And last year was really successful. We were able to raise up 3 national society new from scratch who can now start to do mapping on their end. So that's some of the key things they're using in terms of encouraging youths and practicing using this mapathon, because youth are good in terms of product when it comes to digital skills. But if you introduce this kind of digital skills, which can able to map remotely, and they can able to work in their comfort zone, provide some clear landmarks in what they are doing, that's something that we are championing on. And just to close this, is in terms of improving digital literacy. Digital literacy is one of the key aspects that OCM is playing. And that's one we need all the players, institutions, and humanitarian actors, and the CPOs within the different national society institutions, in terms of improving the digital skills and able to have a digital literacy training processes being established in our national society. So yes, we have national society, but if one of the partner comes in and have a skill that they can able to offer, that's some of the collaboration we are doing to make sure that we strengthen the data literacy level, improve data literacy level in terms of how are we using this? Why are we saying that we need to have a clear way our street being mapped? How are we using OCM at the first place? So trying to provide that literacy process within our national society and able to connect among the peer-to-peer network a lot in terms of that, because it's strengthening us and then we can able to cascade that knowledge, replicate the knowledge from different nations. So having 549 national society, only 5 out of it are good in doing mapping, and we have a francophone team here. So we have to make sure that we cascade that process. So once we have that partnership being established, this is one of the key output that we can able to have and then realize at the end of as the continent, because these are results for the continent, not necessarily the FRC operation countries that we are supporting national society, but the rest of other players that we are working with. Over to you, David.
Wonderful. And this conversation is you're from IFRC, but this is true for and can be true for any other organization, any other humanitarian player, any other government agency. We unfortunately have lost Mr. Magauzi. He's from government, but I'm going to ask each of you to talk about the role of government in this entire conversation, because we are looking at OpenStreetMap and the different opportunities it presents in the region. I think that's really exciting. I'll come back to all of you for your take on the role of government in OpenStreetMap and the use of open mapping tools and processes. But from the community side of things, we really do want also to look at some of the challenges that these communities face. And we are talking about communities linking up with, let's say, the IFRC or the Red Cross movement, communities linking up with the universities to support any mapping initiatives. Geoffrey, from your perspective and where you see it, what challenges are these communities of contributors facing in the countries that you speak with?
Yeah, thank you, David, for that question. So, OpenStreetMap, from where it started, from really is a volunteer-led project, where anyone, anywhere can contribute to the map, and because of that kind of history that it has come with, the community growth is really also centered around, leadership. So one of the challenges that some communities face in some countries is lack of someone, stepping up and, taking on leadership and say, yeah, I can grow the community, and, try to collaborate and mobilize the community and support each other. So that's one of the challenges we have seen. Lack of someone taking responsibility and working towards growing the community. The other challenge, I think, is around very many OSM groups being informal. So if a community is looking for a partnership with, for example, government, with an NGO, and they're not, an organization, they're just, a group of contributors, it's very hard for someone to give them, room and listen to them. So one of the things that really the hurdle that OSM communities have to jump is to become organized and have some kind of entity that can represent them at country level, and which would make the partnerships with government, with other organizations easier, but also it would also make it easier for them, like, for example, to raise resources, because supporting a volunteer community also requires resources. I can just give an example of one of the events that communities organize, which are called mapathons, where you invite like 20, 30 people and invite them for a 3-hour session to do mapping. To organize such an event, you need internet, you need space where people can meet. So if you can't really find a good place where that can really happen, it's hard even to do that kind of activity. The other one, of course, that I can also highlight is internet data and also devices. Contributing to some of these digital maps requires you to have an internet connection and to have a computer that you can use to do this. Of course, people can also contribute on their phones, and I'm glad to say, like, very many people have access to smartphones now, but also internet access is not straightforward in many parts of Africa. Internet is expensive, so normally what someone would put on their phone would be a data bundle to help them get internet to stay on social media and chat on WhatsApp, on Facebook. So when you ask them, can you put on a data bundle to map they don't have those resources. So how do they get those resources? It can only be done if they are kind of organized and they can try to to raise funding in different ways to be able to support the community, so that at least we're asking people to volunteer their time to contribute to mapping, but we're not asking them also to finance that, because some of them are also don't have like jobs, and they are trying to find means to survive. I think it's easier to contribute to OpenStreetMap as a volunteer when you have like a full-time job and you can say, I can spare time and contribute. But if you're going to to do this like on a daily basis and you don't have other means of raising money that would support you to get such resources, then it becomes difficult. So really for me, I think the last one I want to highlight that is a challenge is also maybe the quality of the data of OpenStreetMap, where you may find like data is incomplete. So when you are going to sell it to government and try to encourage government, can you use this data? Can you contribute to this data? You have to present to them something that is really good, that will encourage them to do this. So and that's why it would encourage, make sense to get like drone imagery and then use that to digitize and get like high resolution imagery and use that to produce data, vector data, which is like high quality, and then in that way people can get more buy-in into OSM. So it's still the responsibility of the community to make sure that OSM data is good quality, and that's one of the questions that OSM communities are asked whenever they talk to government. Anyone can contribute to this map. How do we trust it and make sure the data is good? But it's a collaborative effort. However much is the same people contributing, it's also the same community that kind of make sure that this data is good quality. So they validate the data, they clean it up. So it's kind of a collaborative effort, and that's why we have to get more people on board from all kinds of sectors. OSM communities alone cannot complete, for example, the map of Uganda and get all of the data contributed. There is already data that exists in like government that can just be imported into OpenStreetMap, and in that way it provides an opportunity, because then data is on a platform where it is openly accessed by anyone. So some of those challenges really, if they can be overcome, then it would really open up more doors for OSM communities.
Wonderful. Thank you, Geoffrey. Lots of challenges there that you highlight, that not specific to any country, but cut across different countries. And I think many of us attending this conference and this session identify with those challenges that do exist. But I want to ask everyone, I'll start with you, Royo, let's talk about some of the opportunities. Briefly, what opportunities do you see OpenStreetMap presenting to the data ecosystem in any country? You are from Namibia. And with your role, at the university with the community there, what opportunities do you see OpenStreetMap presenting in the data ecosystem? And I'll come to you, Elly, and Geoffrey after that.
Okay, thank you, David, for the question. The opportunities that I see that OpenStreetMap can contribute to is in supporting this new movement. I say it's new because it's coming more, or at least institutions that do produce spatial data in this country are having this conversation. And that's the one around open data and open data sharing. So I think OpenStreetMap, especially OpenStreetMap data that is complete and has a high quality, like Geoffrey mentioned, would contribute to this movement. I also see that countries in Africa, and I think internationally as well, are moving towards this national spatial data infrastructure setup, where any spatial data that has been produced in the country with taxpayers' money should be made available, at least for free, to citizens in that country, and also anyone doing research within that space. So I do see that there is this opportunity where OpenStreetMap communities can contribute in helping government have complete data sets. Earlier on, I did mention that one of the challenges we find within the land administration space is the lack of data to inform informal settlement upgrading and also the creation and management of our land information system. I also see that we do have an opportunity as a community, at least a new one here in Namibia, to contribute by meeting this gap. Because the advantage that you have with OpenStreetMap, and this is something that I always say, if I say preach, when we are sharing this through training events with different partners, is that you have data that is easily available, that you can share across different platforms, and then that you can also integrate within your own local information systems. So what we see is that if we share and create awareness around how communities can contribute data and also how they can validate and ensure that the data is of quality, this data can then be incorporated within planning systems, at least within town and regional planning projects. And we have seen that there's going to be such an opportunity, at least for our community here in Namibia, where the city of Windhoek, which is the capital here, looking into how they can use data that has been contributed by the community in informing informal settlement upgrading. What this will help with is try to reduce the number of people that have to be relocated when they're doing the planning, and then also to ensure that the planning is informed by updated information that is coming from the residents themselves. So what normally happens, at least in the conventional town planning approach, is that you have people within, or at least professional town planners, planning over the people. So what we're trying to do, at least, and seeing that it's an opportunity for OSM communities, is to start informing governments that this data is available, it is of high quality, and it can inform their planning processes. And then we are testing this in Windhoek, and we will see that it will probably bring about successes in the future. But David, I also wanted to add to this question around what are some of the challenges that we do foresee.
Yeah.
We
Go right
have
ahead.
this we have this we had a few test activities in the informal settlements themselves, where we had to do ground truthing and see that, when we remotely collected the data, digitized everything into OpenStreetMap, we had to go to the informal settlement and verify and also update some of the information. What we noticed is that there's also the hesitation and at least reluctance from community members themselves to share this, or at least to if you are walking around with your mobile phone using Mapillary, for example, someone would think like, oh, why are you trying to capture or take my picture? So there's also that sort of hesitation from community members to sort of openly participate, but we are hoping to overcome this challenge. And that can always be overcome if we have broader stakeholder collaboration and also our politicians and our community leaders coming to the project and promoting this themselves within the communities. And another major challenge that we have seen, if we look at the base maps that are available on OpenStreetMap, especially for informal settlements and even Namibia as a country, you would see that most of them are not as up to date or as clear as we would hope them to be. And this creates a challenge for us when we have to map. Because one of the first questions that local authorities are asking us when we are bringing and presenting this nice opportunity, what they always ask is, so when were the images taken that you're using to digitize the structures? How updated are they? So what we always say is like, no, we're using digital globe images, when we're using Bing, and they were probably updated earlier in January of the year or earlier in the year. And this is not always a good selling point. But then we are seeing that we are overcoming that one as well. As much as that's a challenge, we also see that there's an opportunity to use other technologies such as Mapillary to provide the most up-to-date data. But and lastly, in terms of challenges and also opportunities, like Geoffrey mentioned, financing is an issue. Because when we are hosting these mapping events, we have to bring youth from the outskirts of the city into the city where the university is based to run these events. You have to provide transport, and then also obviously some sort of refreshments and whatnot. And this does not necessarily come out of the pocket of one person. It's through contributions and also grants like the one that we worked with Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. So for us, that is a challenge. But then the second one is the part on availability of mapping spaces. I know in developed countries, or at least you would say most community members would, or at least OpenStreetMap community members can contribute from the comfort of their homes. When the communities that we are working for and also working with don't have electricity, don't have running water, and then they also don't have fast internet connection. So what we need is to see how do we start creating, or at least building our own spaces where we don't have to depend on the university to make computer laboratories available. So that's also one of our new, at least our new goals, if we do move forward to a new project phase, to see how do we create our own space that we can maintain, and then also encourage more people to come and contribute. And a space that is not here in the center of town, but then that is closer to the communities, is what we think can also enhance and also increase participation from youth members, not only the ones that are affiliated to the Sheikh Dwellers Federation, but also others that hear about this interesting project and want to come in and contribute. So basically, sure, that's where we are at, and then we hope to see that we can work better with other organizations. I'm taking this from one of the questions that I also see popping up here, is that we do have Red Cross in Namibia as well, but it's a potential partner that we can also engage. Even if we do look at if you go onto the tasking manager within Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, you would see that there are some projects that are running. So we can also see how do we strengthen this collaboration with other institutions that are also doing some mapping.
Yeah,
Over to
exactly.
you,
And
David.
thank you so much, Royo. You've touched lots of good points that I would sit here and listen to you going over and over and over. But our time is running out really quick, and we have some comments and questions from our participants. So welcoming all of those comments and compliments. Thank you, everyone. There's one from Janet Chapman around, I think it goes to IFRC and Red Cross. So one from Tommy Charles, great work, Elly. I wish the IFRC can establish a framework that would ensure that local Red Cross societies incorporate OSM into their work. Yeah, that's so Elly, I want you to have a comment on that one, plus this other one from Janet Chapman around how closely do you work with the team in Tanzania on promoting OpenStreetMap, and that is referring to the Red Cross, the Tanzania Red Cross Society. Yeah, and then one other one for you, Elly, as well from Janet. Janet says they've worked quite heavily with some local Red Cross groups in rural Tanzania, but many of them knew nothing about mapping, which is, I think I found to be the case for many others as well. Do you have anything very simple to give to groups like that about why they should get started? Elly, over to you to sum up all of those comments around IFRC and Red Cross.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Janet and our colleagues on this. So just to sum up in terms of what's happening in Tanzania, and that's why we had a quite communication with the National Society, Tanzania Red Cross, with the monitoring and they call the PMER, Planning and Monitoring Reporting Team, in terms of how we can able to establish and understand what's happening and why do we have a strength in some of the local branches and others we don't have. So that has been a plan going on. And coming this week, we have also there's special information and special action going on in Tanzania. So we'll definitely make sure that we reach out the team and try to make sure that we keep we look them together.
Looks like we've internet connection there for Elly. Geoffrey, one other question for you in here is how has the Open Mapping Hub in Eastern and Southern Africa region engaged local organizations in relation to creating and meeting their data needs? I think that's an interesting question for you.
Yeah, thank you, David, and thank you, Tommy, for the question. Yeah, really, the Open Mapping Hub, that's one of the things we are trying to work towards. Yeah, how can we support organizations and partners from the region to meet their data needs, but also to get them involved in OpenStreetMap. But also we want to do, really want to do this with the OSM communities in each country. So what really the hub is doing is to be the bridge between these organizations in the different countries, but also with to bridge the gap between government and the local OSM community. We have partnerships. We have that is David, who is really very much doing this, trying to bridge the gap between open mapping organizations and OSM communities. So the fact is that some of them even have data that they would be willing to import in OpenStreetMap, and doesn't make sense to ask the OSM community to collect all of this data when it is somewhere seated in government, and it would make much more sense to get that data from government with an open license that is acceptable in OpenStreetMap, and then import that data. So, but also there is data gaps. There is data gaps that can really be filled by OpenStreetMap. We were talking to a government agency in Zambia recently, and for their national special data infrastructure, the roads layer that they are using is really from OpenStreetMap. Why? Because it is more kind of updated than the one from the Roads Authority, the National Roads Authority. So there's really a gap that OSM can cover in terms of covering, filling the data needs at country level.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Lots of comments, and I see your comments there. Shadrach in DRC, you're already linking up with the Red Cross Society there. That's wonderful. So true. When universities do allow groups, this is from Janet Chapman, and I think it was going to Royal. Just a comment there. Do allow groups to use their facilities, but often there are challenges with that, with internet and sometimes electricity issues or even computers. I think we so much to discuss about, within this very topic, but this is the conference, 1 hour given to this panel discussion. I want to take this chance to thank all of you, my panelists, Ms. Royal Mabakeng from the University of Science and Technology in Namibia, Geoffrey Kateregga from the Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Hub as the Community Manager, and Elly Mulah from the IFRC Information Management Unit. Thank you so much. We were not able to have Mr. Magauzi from the Republic of Zimbabwe, Deputy Surveyor General. But all of you that have participated and have attended, thank you so much. We want to end here. Thank you for the comments. Let's carry on the conversation throughout the conference. This is State of the Map Africa 2021. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Great. Thank you.